We've all seen the film now. Let's just start with the basics. So you've been making movies for a long time. This is your film directorial debut. Why did you choose this script to be your first directed film?
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of TV, directing a lot of TV. I directed one other movie that was on Lifetime, and I read the script and I absolutely adored it. I thought it had, everything. It was funny and sad and hopeful, and it had a romance. I mean, can you get any better than that? And I felt like it was an incredibly entertaining movie that really was about something. And for me, one of the many things it's about is climate change and how people are suffering and because of that and feeling scared and hopeless in the world and like they want to go to a planet B and thinks that there's a plan B. In this particular family, obviously they've suffered a loss. And so everyone's checking out in one way or another. And I was interested in that concept, like we're all checking out in one way or another. I mean, I know I am, whether it's like shopping or obsessive thinking that I think is going to help things, or worry, or shopping, or watching too much TV. There's a way in which this family is like exploded into separate corners and are all checking out. He's checking out in the most obvious way, but everyone is checking out to a degree.
So one of the things I love about the film is as you get to, so it starts off, it kind of feels like your regular rom-com, right? And I started to saying like, oh, I get it, it's a cute little, can he find love before he goes off to space? But we very clearly realize that there's a lot more, there's deeper things going on, both in Alex's motivation and the family and everything that's happening there. As a filmmaker, how do you approach that sort of tone, where you're starting off maybe light rom-com-y, but you're gonna deal with much more serious themes?
Yeah, I know, everyone talks about tone all the time. To me, I felt like the script was able to go to all these different places. I felt like it could be, first of all, my favorite movies are funny, sad, hopeful. I don't know about you guys, but I want the funny, I want some heaviness, and I want some weight to it. I don't want to think I'm just, whistling Dixie here, sitting in the theater. Unless I know I'm going just for a comedy. But I want to have some, something serious and have gravitas, and then I want it to be hopeful because life is just too hard, especially right now. And I just feel like, so for me, those tones can all coexist. They coexist all the time. They coexisted in Little Miss Sunshine. They coexist in every single Alexandra Payne movie that there's ever been. And that's kind of my jam, I don't want it to be just strictly drama, so it's just heavy and and hard to sit through and painful. I feel like we're assaulted daily with the pain, Yeah.
So let's get into the themes a little bit. You've already talked about the environmental themes. Alex talks a lot about how we're destroying our home, we're gonna need a backup home. Why was this environmental crisis important to you personally to tell in this story?
Well, we're all here on planet Earth right now. I think we're all kind of flipping out about this shit, and if we're not, we really should be. Sorry to say, but I think that, and again, I think we're kind of assaulted with this, and that was also the beauty of the movie to me, that it talks about it, but it talks about it in a very gentle way, in a way that and it's hopeful at the end, so I feel like it doesn't leave you with a darkness inside. I also think that it's a real love letter to the earth. The movie was there to look beautiful. It's this beautiful movie, and we shot it on a beautiful flower farm, and so, to me it was when I think about what is this movie, to me it's like a love letter to the planet,
Yeah, I do love that there's an environmental message, but this is not Al Gore with a slideshow.
Right.
This is why we love our planet. This is what we love about it. And one of my favorite parts of the film is when Kevin as the father is talking about how I don't want to sell the farm to a developer because then it becomes a commodity. We lose the farm. It's no longer a farm, and before long there aren't any family farms left. And that kind of brings things home a lot, makes this more real, that it's not just about this giant unsolvable problem of climate change, small family stories and things like that.
Right, exactly. I think also that's what makes the movie universal, is that we all have a family, whether we like them or not. We do have them, and there's loss, and there's difficulty, and certainly, fighting for the family farm is a wonderful thing to message.
The other major theme of the film, obviously, is talking about grief and loss and how people deal with that. It's interesting, too, how you tie the theme of grief into not just grief over a lost family member, but grief over maybe losing nature on our planet.
Right, exactly. Yep, that's all there. That's definitely all there. I mean, I think that as much as they all try to hide from it, they are all dealing with grief, and that's sort of what makes them want to check out, right? And I think the amazing thing about the movie, and this was in the script from the beginning, is that they, they all think that they can manage without coming together, that they all think that, oh, I can manage my grief over here. And what they really come to understand is I have to let go of focusing on Alex, because Alex is like the most blatant use. I mean, he seems the most grieving, but he's not. Everyone is grieving. And once they actually stop focusing on him and focus on themselves, then they can be free. And that's like, I think that's so true about families, It's like we focus on this one person that we think is the problem, but the truth is we're always the problem, And so, once everyone started to just feel their feelings about about Tom, then everyone heals in the movie. And that was like something, again, that's not beaten over the head, but it's all there if you are really analyzing it,
So let's talk about the cast a little bit. Kyle Allen and Alexandra Shipp are the center of the movie, the emotional crux, the relationship that develops. What was it like working with them? What did you try to get out of their performances? What were they able to give back to you?
Well, I mean, who knew that they were going to have such chemistry together? I mean, that was something that, we just got lucky with that, because I had to cast everything through Zoom. They don't say Skype anymore, it's Zoom. Isn't it amazing that we didn't know anything about Zoom? About Zoom. I mean, did anybody know anything about Zoom before the pandemic?
Yes.
Okay, you did. One person. I think there's one person here.
It was business related.
Things business related, right. Well, anyway, Zoom. And so, you just kind of hope a lot. You see these actors, you see their films, and you think to yourself, okay, well, that person has many different colors that I want for the movie, and they don't seem to have any bad habits, which is hard for young actors. I think young actors often get into just some bad habits from doing things that you need to do to make money. And so I saw Kyle. He hadn't done a lot. He did A Map of Tiny Perfect Things. That was a movie that was on Hulu, and I thought he was wonderful and not terrible looking. And also, he's a trained ballet dancer. And I have to tell you that was part of the reason why I hired him, was because I knew he knew how to work hard. Because trained ballet dancers have to work really hard. They don't know from, things being easy. So I knew that, because it's a huge part. And then Alexandra Shipp was wonderful. I've seen her in many things, but she's never had a part like this, never had a part this big, and she will go on to make, she'll be the lead in something next time. But she was extraordinary and beautiful, and also very soulful. Like, everyone I cast was very soulful, and those two were at the center of it. And the other thing about Kyle is that he looks fragile, right? Like, his eyes are a little he's got some pain there, and you see that, and so I knew, I thought he would be good.
Mm-hmm. So there's also this relatively unknown actor, Kevin Bacon, who plays the father in the film. What was it like directing your own husband in a film?
Well, it was the second time I've directed him a few times. I directed him in Story of a Girl, which was my first movie, and then I directed him in City on a Hill, which was the TV show that he starred in for Showtime. And he's an amazing actor. I utterly trust him, and also trust that, I really feel like I direct him in a very special way, and I have confidence in that, honestly. I think that, and also he's kind of a scary person to give a note to, because he's like, excuse me, what? I've been made like 500 movies, and you're 12, and I'm not, you know, and I know his stuff, and so I feel like I can get something out of him that maybe others can't. And it was also just such a great part for him. It was so gentle and so, you know, quiet and unassuming. That's not often the part that he gets to play, but it's but I feel like it's easy to direct him because he takes notes so brilliantly.
And he's directed you in the past.
Yeah.
Did you take any tips from his direction of you, or better yet, were you at any point be like, let me show you how this is done?
I've been known to give a line reading or two in my day. I don't know that I took anything from his directing of me except to say that it was just filled with love, always. You know, he directed a bunch of the closers and he was so loving and I felt utterly safe with him. And I also knew he was going to shoot me really well, like I was going to look good. He would say things like, drop your chin a little bit. And I'd be like, yes, this is the kind of direction I really want.
Your son...
Forget that whole feeling shit. Just gonna make me look good.
Your son also worked on the film. He did the score. What was
Yes.
it like working with him?
Yeah, thank you. It was great, and it's also hard, right? I mean, I'm mom, and I'm gonna be critical, you know, because that's my job, and not every cue is gonna be the greatest. And he worked with Scott Hendrick, and they did an incredible job. I think it was probably harder than they thought it was gonna be because usually you hire a composer at when you've already got an entire film, you've already got a cut, and then they come in and then they score to the cut. Well, you know, because he's my son, I asked him to do some scoring for me so I could use it in the cut. I've done 3 films, 1 short film and 2 films, and Travis has done all of them for me, and for every one he has written me stuff to use in the cut, so I've never used a temp track, because you can fall in love with your temp track, like you can fall in love with Hans Zimmer. I mean, who wouldn't? You know, and so you kind of have this, this temp love. And I never have had that problem, which has been so great for me because I've just been able to fall in love with that music. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure it must be hard to hear your mom ask you again to make another version of this cue, but you know, he handled it well.
So I want to take a chance to have a couple questions from the audience, if there are questions out there. Sure, right up front. I'll start with you.
Hi, first of all, I wanted to say I loved you in The Edge of 17 and Born on the 4th of July.
Thank you.
And I really admired the themes you're exploring in this film. And that so you've directed shows and you're directing this movie. Do you see any difference between shows and movies that, you know, directing in your position, in your case?
You know, the TV that I've directed has always been somebody else's show. You know, I've done everything from Grace and Frankie to Ray Donovan and many other things, and it's their show, right? Like someone else, a showrunner's written it, the actors already cast, the costumes are practically, you know, picked. Most of the guest stars, although sometimes I get to pick a guest star, so really like someone else's stamp is on the whole thing, and I'm really kind of, you know, coming in to be a guest. I mean, literally that's what it's called. I mean, you say you're a guest director, and I'm a guest. And after all those years of working on the closer, I know what a pain in the ass it is to have a new director every week. It's like the worst part of a drama, being in any TV show, is that a new director's coming every week. So I know what that is, and I know how to do that well, and I know how to do it like a guest. You don't overstay your welcome, you don't keep people there too long, you know, you respect the actors' choices because they've been doing this a lot longer than you have, but you still can somehow insinuate yourself, you know, into that, which has been great. For film, you know, the things that I've directed have been the script. I've had the script from the very beginning. I pick everything. I pick the cast, I pick the crew, I pick, you know, the production designer. I work with all of these people, and I always have the last word. Sometimes it can be daunting, but it's always a wonderful thing because then I get to create their circumstances for the best telling, in my mind, of this story.
Thank you.
In the middle there, yes.
Hi, thank you so much. It was such a wonderful movie.
Thank you.
I have a question regarding the scene where the father, Kevin, has his breakdown and sort of moves on, or at least accepts with the audience that, you know, his son has passed away. how did you manage that as a director, and especially the wife of the actor? I mean, how do you negotiate that? It was so real. It brings out the therapist in me.
Oh.
It was so real that I found myself crying. And it was just so perfectly displayed.
That's such a beautiful thing to say. Thank you so much. And I'll tell you, it was really hard. It was awful. I cried behind the monitor the whole time. He only did like 3 takes because I knew I wanted to do it in 1 take. Looking back on it, I'm sort of like, God, I wish I'd gotten some like tiny little close-ups, details of her touching him or whatever. But there's something about not breaking it, you know, and having it that feels so raw and vulnerable. I think there's a time, actually, a journalist said this to me recently, and I don't know if it was you, but I'm stealing it. And that is that there comes a time as a parent that you always think to yourself, God, how did I get it so wrong? Or did I get it so wrong? What didn't I do? And I think when you have a child that dies at a young age, like I can't even conceive of such a horrible thing. But I can conceive of someone doubting themselves as a parent, and it is the worst feeling ever. And I think that is, and I didn't even have to talk to Kevin about it. I mean, he knew exactly. I mean, he knew how you wanted to play it, and it was extraordinary. And thank you. I'm glad you liked that moment. Thank you.
Over here in the front.
How did you ever think about in 1996, Showtime came to Kevin and you did Losing Chase?
Mm-hmm.
Did you think that 27 years later that you would be directing him in Space Oddity?
Oh my God, I love you for bringing that up. Not at all for 2 seconds I would ever think that. I mean, I think that I felt, I didn't start directing until I was 50 because I just didn't think I'd be good at it. And I think that these are the kind of things that women tell themselves, right? Like, I don't know, I'll just say my gender, that I feel like we have so much self-doubt, right? And there's a certain amount of being, you know, an actor that you think, oh, you're only supposed to do this, and you're only supposed to be this piece of the pie, and don't want any more, don't want too much, especially for a girl. And, you know, I never would have thought, I always said I would never wanted to direct because I didn't think I had it in me, and then I didn't really know until
Wrong assumption there.
Yeah, thank you very much. But no, I wouldn't have thought that, and I have to say that that it's amazing how your life can change and you can grow and you can do something new even when you're 50, and I'm really grateful that I've been able to do it.
Wait, how did it feel to direct Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin?
Amazing. Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin are the fucking balls, you know? I mean, they are incredible. And guess what? They love direction. They love it. They love hearing notes. They want my direction, and they were lovely, and I hope to work with Jane again for sure. And Lily is incredible, and you know, they're just the best. It was great. Thank you.
I'm going to take 1 or 2 more from the audience, but first, your answer there made me think of, you know, if we're talking about the difficulty of getting a film like this made, we hear a lot in the press lately just about difficulties of getting film on the screen in general, but also there's a certain narrative of the rom-com is dead.
Yeah.
How hard was it to get a film like this made in 2023?
It was incredibly hard, as witnessed by thousands of executive producers who clearly, like anyone who gave us $5 was an executive producer. I'm just saying, it was so hard. We got so many no's, and honestly, I was just so tenacious about it. I was like, well, I have to make this movie, so I don't know how we do it. It was very hard. And is the rom-com dead? God, I hope not. I love seeing people fall in love on film, like so much. I mean, it captivates me and transports me. It doesn't care. It doesn't matter what age they are. I'm just completely into it. So, but you know, I grew up on a lot of that. So,
Way in the back there.
That's
Right
you.
there with the hat, yeah.
Just to piggyback off that question, did this script take place in Rhode Island, or did you do it based on tax incentives?
tax incentives. And also, I fell in love with it. I mean, I looked at a lot of other tax incentive states, and but I thought it was beautiful. There were 4 small towns in Rhode Island that we looked at. We found Wickford on March 11th of 2020, right before the world shut down, right? Was that 2020? I've lost the years. I've lost them. I don't know about you guys, but I've lost them. And March 11th, 2020, and and I fell in love with Wickford, and I knew it was the town, you know, that little square. I needed to have that square, and I didn't have a flower farm. So in February of 2021, I looked online for flower farms in Rhode Island, and I found Robin Hollow Farm like 10 minutes away. I called them up the day before Valentine's Day, got a call, they picked up the phone, and I said, "Hi, my name is Kyra Sedgwick, and I want to shoot a movie in Rhode Island in Wickford, and I just love your flower farm, it's so beautiful." And she goes, and I said, "Any chance you guys might be willing to, you know, let us shoot there?" And she goes, "Well, I'm gonna have my husband call you back because he knows more about this than I do, but you are calling a flower farm the day before Valentine's Day." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I hate Valentine's Day. I mean, I think it's a stupid holiday. I mean, it's a total Hallmark holiday. I mean, I love the flowers." And I'm like, "Oh, what the hell?" Anyway, so that's what happened there. And you know what? I have to tell you that Rhode Island is a lovely place to shoot. They're not cynical. They love having you there. I mean, they could not have been more wonderful. And we got $1 million worth of production design for very little money because we shot on a working flower farm, which was brilliant.
Over there.
One of the beauties of the script for me was that, and Alex states this, he stays because he wants to live. Obviously he fell in love, but that's not the reason I think initially he stayed. It could have been really easy to make that choice in the script first. And I'm wondering, was there a process to get to the decision he made in the way that he made it, in terms of working with the writer?
You know, I think it was always there, but for me, it's about like, it's always an inside job, right? I mean, he needed to forgive himself for what happened to his brother and to separate himself from what happened to his brother. Like, I am not my brother, I have to live. And to me, he really came to that on his own. You know, Alexandra was more about making an amends to her, I felt like, than going like, let's go for this, you know? I think he really wanted to apologize, you know, more so than anything else. And yeah, I think he chooses to stay for all the right reasons, but they're inside reasons.
So, Kyra, what's next? Do you want to direct another film? Are you eager to get back behind the camera or do something else?
Yeah, you know, I actually have a lot of acting things coming up, much to my chagrin. No, I'm only kidding, sort of. No, I directed an HBO show called Girls on the Bus that I hope will be out in September. It's a TV show that I did an episode of. Love to do a pilot and, you know, love to fall in love with the next script, but I have yet to find that yet.
You're interested in tackling a different genre, maybe do a mystery or an action flick?
Yes. I'd love to do the female-born identity, but I think lots of people would. I'd love to do a thriller of some kind, or maybe horror. Yeah, sure, I'd love to do it all. I mean, I think that's sort of the good and the bad of being an actor. It's like, I can do that, and I can do that, and I can do that, you know? Maybe that's not always so great. It's better to, like, stay in your wheelhouse, but if I've already done something, I don't necessarily want to do it again.
Well, I think we're all glad that you made this
Thank
particular
you.
film, and also thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much, you guys. You're so sweet.
Kyra Sedgwick, everybody.